Good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. Good evening for some of you. We're really excited to have so many participants coming from all over the world for this first webinar on the second data collection exercise for SDG 12.7.1 that UNEP is overseeing. We are here with our colleagues, Ms. Yumi Chung from Katie and my colleague Jojo from UNEP, who is our SPP intern. We are going to first have opening remarks from Yumi, then we will review SDG indicator 1271. We'll present you the data reporting process for the second exercise. Then we will present you also the basics of the Excel questionnaire that we use as a tool to report, including sub-indicators, questions, and scoring. We also walk you through the Excel questionnaire, and we'll finish with next steps and Q&A session. So without further ado, I'm pleased to hand over to our colleague Yumi from Katie.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening from all over the world. Dear colleagues, you're very welcome to the UNEP virtual training event on methodology and tool for measuring a country's level of sustainable and/or green public procurement implementation. First of all, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to the UNEP APGPP Network Secretariat, especially Farid and Jojo, for their hard work to put the event together. Me, myself, as one of the focal points for the SDG indicator 12.7.1 reporting, like many of you, I'm humbled to open the session with a small remark. As most of you are well aware of, sustainable consumption and production along the line with the resource efficiency and circular economy is considered as a crucial means to tackle triple planetary crises, namely climate change, biodiversity loss, and pollution. In order to achieve sustainable consumption and production pattern, it is essential to implement sustainable public procurement at various levels, and I feel proud to be part of the APGPP network to push this agenda forward. Monitoring and reporting is no less important than the policy implementation itself. For the last stock taking of SDG indicator 12.7.1 in 2020, 40 national or federal governments have participated for the reporting. 33 reports were considered compliant. But this year, we expect more participation from the member states, considering the growing interest on SPP in economies with different development stages. I have no doubt for having a very informative and productive session today. And without further ado, I give back the floor to Farid. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Yumi, for your inspiring remarks. So I will share my, please, I will ask you to mute your microphones. And if you, Jojo, please mute the participants because you have the ability to do so. And then, so I'm sharing my presentation. Please tell me if we're fine.
Yeah, we can see your presentation.
Okay. Okay, so we start with the review of indicator 1271. Thanks again for the great participation. UNEP is the custodian of Goal 12, which is about responsible consumption and production. And within Goal 12, we are in particular responsible for target 12.7. And for those of you who don't know that yet, target 12.7 is labeled promote public procurement practices that are sustainable in accordance with countries' policies and priorities. And this target is measured by indicator 1271, which is the number of countries implementing sustainable public procurement policies and action plans. So, as Yumi said, there is a growing interest for sustainable and green procurement. And this is demonstrated by the global interest also for the reporting on 1271. So countries are interested to be part of the SDGs global movement. They want to monitor and benchmark their progress, and they want also to set up a baseline to assess future progress and identify the gaps useful for the implementation of sound, sustainable public procurement policies. These are only 3 reasons, but there are others also that motivate countries to take part in the reporting. So this reporting, we try to make sure that it occurs every other year. So what is required from countries? First of all, to nominate focal points and alternates, to designate them. Second, to complete the Excel questionnaire that we will present you later. As Yumi said, there is a growing interest. We had 40 participating countries in 2020. We are pleased to announce that the number of focal points has reached 101 countries, and in reality 103, according to the last nominations we had yesterday. So please be also aware that the focal point list is available online. We provide you the link here, and this presentation will be shared with you. We're pleased also to see that there is much more presence of focal points in Africa, which was a region which was where we had an absence, almost absence of or in existence of focal points. Now, in this exercise, hopefully we will have a much better reporting from Africa. We have also a stronger presence in Latin America and also in Asia, as you can see from the map. So you will receive, as part of the reporting process, a folder. We will send you the link to a folder which contains an Excel questionnaire guidelines, supporting documents subfolder, where you will be able to provide the evidence for your claims regarding the progress you have made on SPP, and of course the Excel questionnaire subfolder, in which you will find the Excel questionnaire that you will have to fill out. In terms of a timeline, we had the focal point and alternate designation period until July, which was very productive. Then we are now in a phase of completion of the Excel questionnaire. Then starting from November, we will have exchanges between UNEP and countries for clarifications if necessary. And then we will be reporting the evidence to the SDG office in New York. And hopefully in March 2023, we'll be able to publish aggregate data on United Nations SDG Global Database. So I mentioned that the completion needs to be by October. Actually, the deadline for data reporting is October 17th. So, of course, it's open to, this reporting is open to all member states. We have to only one submission per country, coordinated by the national focal point. The countries need to complete the entire questionnaire. The reporting is only at the national level, meaning the central level of government. We don't include subnational levels like local authorities or public enterprises. No, it's really a central government which is concerned. We ask country to focus on the 2 years of reference, which are 2020, 2021. Of course, if some documents date from a period before 2020, this can be, of course, taken into consideration. If the documents have a validity that extends to 2022, 2023, as in the case of some SPP action plans. And please be aware also that the score will only be official after having been reviewed by UNEP. We have also this year a possibility to report online. We favor this mode of reporting, so countries will be able to share the link to the Excel questionnaire among different reporting entities and persons, teams will be able to share then the task of reporting much more easily than it was in the past. And they will, by accessing the then together also to the supporting documents folder, they will be able to input and upload the evidence in this folder. And we ask countries at the end of the process to send us an email to indicate that the questionnaire has been completed. There's also, we keep the mode of offline reporting because some countries have difficulties of accessing online, the online questionnaire folder, issues of connections, etc. So we understand that this mode needs to be it needs to remain. So in this case, we ask you to download the Excel questionnaire and complete it, as we did in the previous reporting, and send us as an attachment along with supporting documents the Excel questionnaire filled out. So now we will hand over to my colleague Jojo, who will present us the basics of the Excel questionnaire and its main sections. Over to you,
Thank you,
Jojo.
Farid. Before I present, there is one of our guests is asking whether the presentation slides will be shared after the presentation.
Yes, as I mentioned, we will share the presentation, so we'll have the links, and of course, you will receive also the all the guidelines that we have produced, the instructions we have produced to guide you in the reporting process. Any other question?
Not yet, not so far. Just as a reminder, we'll have a Q&A session at the end, but you can also use the chat box function throughout the entire training to ask questions, and we'll have a short Q&A section by the end of each section to answer some of the more targeted questions. Without further ado, please allow me to share my screen. In section 3, we'll be going over some of the Excel questionnaire basics. All of these will go through more carefully in section 5, where I will take all of you to the OneDrive folder and go through the Excel questionnaire section by section. So this is just to go over the basics really fast to give everyone a general idea of how the Excel questionnaire looks like. This year, we have really improved our Excel questionnaire. We've made it color-coded, and there's drop-down boxes and there are pop-ups, so everything should be very easy. When you open the Excel questionnaire, you will see 4 tabs at the bottom section. The first spreadsheet is instruction. The second one is contact detail. The third one is questionnaire, which is the main questionnaire that you would have to fill out. And the fourth spreadsheet will be the supporting document A1, which you will be providing some of the supporting documents to support your answers in the main questionnaire. You can switch to different spreadsheet by clicking on these different tabs. As previously mentioned, the questionnaire is color-coded this year. All the questions are in red and bolded, so they're very easy to identify and read. Below each question, there is a short description to further explain the question if you need, and all of these explanations are in black. Your score of each section will be calculated at the end of each section in red, and all these section scores will be added at the end to produce your final score. However, as Farid said, these scores are not finalized, not until UNEP went in to justify your score, to make sure everything you have answered is corrected, and will contact you if there's any question. All the drop-down menus are in dark yellow. So if you see a cell that is in the color of the darker yellow here, you would know that this cell contains a drop-down box that you would need to select for the answer. If you see the cell is in a lighter yellow, as it's on the right side, you will see that the cell requires a type-in answer. All the cells that are in gray are optional cells, meaning that it is not required to answer this cell. This cell is not taken into account to the final score. However, we highly recommend you to provide more supporting answers in these gray optional cells. For the darker yellow cells that contain a drop-down menu, how to answer is you will first click on the cell. After you click on the cell, a small arrow would appear. Then you can click on the arrow and see all the options that you have. So for example, in this cell, the options that you have for the answers are yes and no. We also have a blank cell to be inserted if you're not sure how to answer the question for the time being, then you can click the blank cell. For the questions that are in a lighter yellow, meaning that it requires a type-in answer, we have a pop-up to explain what does the type-in answer requires. So how would you access is you will click on the lighter yellow cell, then you would see a pop-up appear. So for example, here it says possible examples include developed guidelines, tools, catalogs, specifying last year's revision and etc. So you would know from this pop-up what type of answers that we are expecting in this type-in cell. And then you can type in your answers here. So that is really quick going through some of the Excel questionnaire basics, but again, we'll go through in more detail in section 5. Hand over to you again, Farid.
Thank you. And I don't see any questions in the chat box. So we'll continue and we'll have a Q&A session anyway at the end of the presentations. So sharing again. So now in terms of the content of the questionnaire and the composition of the index, we will we record that the SDG indicator 1271 is about the number of countries implementing sustainable public policies and action plans. We found in 2020 that 33 countries were compliant with SDG 1271. So how do we measure SPP implementation? How can we consider that a country is implementing sustainable public procurement? We look at three things. First of all, we look at the legal framework. Then we look at the level of implementation of SPP and the way SPP is monitored in the country. So legal framework will be measured by two sub-indicators, A and B, implementation by C and D, and monitoring by E and F. So these are the following. So A is whether the country has an SPP action plan or a policy or SPP regulatory requirements. So you see that it's pretty broad. If you don't have approved and developed an SPP action plan, you can prove that you're implementing SPP through really conducive and strong regulatory requirements that include SPP provisions, for example, in the public procurement law. So you have many ways to comply with this sub-indicator A, which is critical because if you are not compliant with A, if you cannot show either that you have a plan or regulatory requirements, you will score 0 and your total score will be 0. You will see that in the formula that I will show in a minute. Then we have 6 sub-indicators. 5 other sub-indicators. The first one connected to the legal framework is whether the public procurement regulatory framework is conducive to sustainable public procurement. Here we will look into how the public procurement framework enables, favors, supports SPP implementation. So countries will get score from 0 to 20. Then we will move to the implementation factors, and we will look first of all at the level of support that are delivered to public procurement practitioners in the implementation of SPP. We will then look into, as part of implementation factor, if countries have developed SPP purchasing criteria or buying standards or requirements that help them implement sustainable public procurement. For example, what the EU is doing in developing its criteria for 22 families of products, for 22 categories, and updating them on a periodic way. There is also in Asia, close to many of you, the labels, the eco labels that are developed in Korea, in China, in Japan, in Thailand, and in other countries that are connected to procurement. So this can be shown also to prove that the country is supporting implementation. And then we move to the last 2 sub-indicators, E and F, which are connected to monitoring. First of all, whether the country has an SPP monitoring system, and then what is the percentage of sustainable purchase of priority products and services. So here countries will need to show the evidence of the measurement of the proportion of purchasing that is green or sustainable. So as I said, then the formula is really connected to the A sub-indicator, and we have A multiplied by a sum of B to F. So A, as you can see, it's either 0 or 1. So if you have 1, then you can then add up all the scores from the sub-indicators B to F, and then you will get a total score. And if you are above the compliance threshold, which is 20 points, then you will be considered compliant with SDG indicator 1271. If you're below, if you don't have 20 points, then you will be considered non-compliant. And then we will have 4 levels of implementation, depending on the scores of the countries: low level, medium high level, or high level of SPP implementation. In the previous exercise, we only had 33 countries scoring from 1 to 3, from levels 1 to level 3. We had no country scoring at high level of SPP implementation, and had 7 countries that had either insufficient data or insufficient SPP implementation. So as I said earlier, the scope was narrowed to national governments. You don't have to worry about subnational governments SPP implementation. Just concentrate on the central government. We converted the scoring system from a 1 to 5 scale to 0, 100. But this did not affect the weight attributed to each response or the Excel calculation methodology. This didn't change. We only changed the scale to make it more, I would say, visible, and the performance of countries can be much more visible if it's scaled from 0 to 100. Then we had slight changes on the sub-indicators. For example, we removed a question regarding risk assessment and impact prioritization, and we distributed the points evenly among DA, which is the environmental criteria, and DB, which are the consideration of social, economic, and governance-related issues. And we had also a small additional question, which is called C5, so on sub-indicator C, sorry, which is about the recognition by governments of best practices and achievements through awards and or incentives. And we attributed 10 points to this question, removing 10 points from question C4, which is our best practices or case studies shared with procurement practitioners. So you see that the methodology, the questionnaire, and the types of questions didn't change much compared to the last exercise. Now I hand back over to Jojo, but ask you first if you have any question regarding what I just presented.
Yes, there are 3 questions currently in the chat box. The first one is a participant is asking the drop-down list is not appearing as explained by me, which I think this question I can answer.
Yeah.
You might need to switch from viewing to editing mode in OneDrive, but we'll go over the detail in this coming section. And the second and third question, I think Farid can answer it, which is, can the Excel file be shared with the participants?
Yes, the Excel file is even online. So as we said, or maybe I haven't said yet, but this tool is used for, of course, reporting of 1271, but it's also, we hope that it will be used to help countries assess, self-assess, I would say, their performance, do a gap analysis. So it's really provided to everyone. And we see that it's really already used by many countries to help or many supporting organizations to assist countries in developing and in strengthening their SPP policies. So yes, tool is available. We will provide you the link where you can download it.
Okay, great. And the third question is it the focal point who awards the point, or is it the task of UNEP?
Yeah, as I said earlier, the scoring becomes official only when it is approved and signed off, I would say, by UNEP. So it's the task of the focal point to fill out the questionnaire. So the focal point will see what is the score of the country at the end of this exercise. However, UNEP will review then the evidence provided, and then we will eventually change the scoring based on the evidence that has been provided. So yes, first of all, the total score is determined by the responses of the focal point. However, there is then a review process, and at the end of the review process, then we will have the official score that will be communicated to the country.
Great. We actually have one more question coming in. The participant from Azerbaijan is asking whether all supporting documents need to be translated into English.
No, you will see also in the instructions that this is not necessary in case the documents are provided in a digital format. We will be using Google Translate to do also this assessment. So this will then help you and avoid this process of translation that can be long. So we understand, that you have a slight or a short time to report, and please provide, but please provide the documents in a digital format. Thank you, Elshan, for this question.
We actually have a guest raising hand, so you can also unmute yourself to ask your question.
Oh, thank you. Good morning, Farid.
Good morning.
Can you hear me?
You very well.
Okay, so I'm Shaka from Sierra Leone. I just wanted a quick clarification.
Where are you from? Which country? Sorry.
Sierra Leone.
Welcome.
I'm one of your focal points in Sierra Leone.
And you're one of the new African countries that we're really happy to have. Welcome.
Yeah, so I wanted to clarify the issue of the supporting documents. So assuming assuming our SPP policy is embedded in the 2016 Act, how do we compromise those two? Do we just reference the 2016 Act if there is no standalone policy for SPP?
Yeah, no, we have also the possibility to show that SPP is integrated in overarching policies. So, but then it needs to be a significant part or a full section, of this policy. So then you would have to communicate to us the section, the concerned section, and of course provide the link to this policy. So is it clear to you?
Thank you very much. Yes, so that's cool.
Okay, good. Yeah, so I take the opportunity to say that again, you can also provide the evidence that if you don't have a standalone or a specific SPP policy or action plans, but if you integrated SPP, for example, in a consumption and production strategy, in a green economy strategy, in a circular economy strategy or policy, and as I said, you have a standalone section, then this can be considered also and can be accepted also for to give you the points for sub-indicator A. Yeah, welcome, Patrick. Uganda is, we know, acting fast and decisively on sustainable procurement. So we hope that you will be part of this engagement and you will show, and demonstrate through this participation the progress you have made. Yeah. No, we know the progress you have been made. If you want to say a word, Patrick. Okay, thanks for participation in the chat. Any other message? Otherwise, we move to the last part. Maybe we can do that so that we can leave questions for the Q&A session. Huh? So back to you, Jojo.
Sounds good. Thank you, Farid. Now we'll be going over the country folder and the Excel questionnaire more in detail. So if you are the officially designated focal point of your country for the SPP reporting, then you would receive a country folder with your country name at the top and then with a dash SDG 12.7.1 data collection. If your country doesn't speak Spanish or French as its official language, then you would receive the folder in English. And most of the English-speaking country, that being said, folders have been sent. This is a working process, so if your country hasn't received the folder yet, please be patient and the folder will be sent out in the next few days. With that being said, it is not too late to identify a focal point if your country doesn't have a focal point yet, or if you're not sure if your country's focal point or not sure whether your country has a focal point, you can always feel free to contact us by the end to ask to request information of this. So without further ado, let's go into your country folder. In your country folder, you will usually have 3 or 4 documents. If you have participated in the 2020 SPP data collection reporting process, then you would have this folder that says 2020 completed questionnaire. In this folder, if you click on it, it will have the Excel spreadsheet that you completed in 2020. This will be there for you to use as reference, for you to see if answers have changed or hasn't changed when you are completing this year's data reporting. So going back, if you didn't participate in the 2020 data reporting process, then of course you wouldn't have this folder. You will only have the rest of the 3 documents. You would also have the supporting document folder. This folder currently is blank because it is for you to upload any information or document that you have here. So for you to provide supporting documents, please upload the documents you hope to provide in this blank folder right here. This is the main questionnaire that you will need to complete. It is called the 2022 Excel questionnaire. You will have to click on it and then the Excel questionnaire would open. You would also have the guidelines here in your country folder attached as a PDF document. You can click on it and then you can read the guidelines if you need when you are reporting the data, if you have any questions. The guidelines have very detailed screenshots even attached if you have any questions regarding the reporting process. Okay, let's now go into the main Excel questionnaire. As I previously mentioned, the Excel questionnaire has 4 tabs under here. It says instructions, contact detail, questionnaire, and supporting documents, A1. The first thing that you should do after opening the Excel questionnaire is to change from viewing mode here to editing mode. So any the Excel questionnaire is set to the system that anybody who has the link can edit. This way, it is very easy to collaborate with your colleagues in your government. You can just share them the link that was sent to you by UNEP. And when they have the link, they click on the link and they should have access to editing the document. So some of the participants were asking why the drop-down menu is not working. It is most definitely because you're still in the viewing mode. So when you're in the viewing mode, it is basically treating the Excel file as a PDF. So you wouldn't be able to type in your answers to see the pop-ups or to see the drop-down menu. You would have to change to the editing mode in order to see those features. Here in the first spreadsheet of instructions, you would also have access to some hyperlinks. If you click on the hyperlink, then it will directly take you to, for example, here it will take you to the Excel questionnaire guidelines. And here it will take you to the calculation methodology. And here, if you click, it will take you to the focal points and the alternates. So if you're not sure whether you are the alternates, you can also, if you're the focal points or the alternates, you can also click here to check if your name and contact detail is there. If you hope to update the contact detail or your email, you can also contact UNEP at any time. So here you would have Farid's email and you will have another colleague, Agnes, her email. If you have any questions, you can always contact them, send them an email and ask anything. On the second spreadsheet here, we have the contact details. Here it is for you to provide your contact information. Here you have the date, please write your country, your first name, last name. Here, gender, this is the first drop-down box that you would encounter. You will click on it and then you will see the little arrow and you can click and choose whichever gender you are. This is basically how the drop-down menu would work in all of the drop-down menu cells. And your positions, department, email address, and so forth. The third spreadsheet will be the main questionnaire that you will need to complete. We together have section A, B, C, D, E, and F, so 5 sections for you to complete. Using section A as an example, here in red, you have the question. A1 says, does your country have an approved national federal SPP policy action plan that's under implementation and or SPP regulatory requirements? This is the main question, which is in red and bold. If you think you would need some further explanation of the question, you can always read under, and here in black are a short description of what we meant by the question. And here in column C, you would see how much score is, how many score is being distributed to this question. So for question A1, 1 point is distributed to this question. Here in column D, you can select your response. This is a dark yellow cell, so you would know this is a drop-down menu cell. You would click on the cell, then you would see this arrow appears. Then you click on the arrow and you would see all the available answers, which is yes or no. So if you have a approved national federal SPP policy action plan, then you can choose yes, and you will see this cell automatically turns green, and you will see 1 point being calculated at the end of section A, because section A is only one question. You will see you received 1 point. If you don't have such policy being instituted, then you will select no, and you will see this cell automatically turns red, and your score for section A is 0. Again, we want to emphasize that for section A, it is the most important section. If you select no, you receive 0 point and your entire questionnaire will return 0, because the score, as Farid just explains, is A times all the sum of all the other section. So if you receive 0 in section A, the whole questionnaire will turn back 0. So this is a very important question, section A. So in question E, F, G, and H, this is a merged cell, and here it is for you to provide details and some additional documents to support your answers. For section A, because it is so important, we have another spreadsheet here, the fourth spreadsheet supporting document A1 for you to provide the supporting details for section A. So if you click on this cell, this will automatically takes you to the supporting documents A1 spreadsheet. And here we have two parts. The first part is what policy strategies or action plans does your government have to support SPP implementation. And here we also have the same darker yellow cells are the drop-down menu cells, and the lighter yellow cells are the type-in cells. When you are done with this section, you can always click up here to return to the main questionnaire, where you can also use the tab function below to return to the main questionnaire. So going over to section B, it is very similar. So you see section B has totally 20 points. Each section all have 20 points except for section A. Section A only has 1 point, but B, C, D, and E all have 20 points being distributed. And for each question, you can select your response in the drop-down cell and provide more details in the supporting detail section. So here, as you see, there is a pop-up appeared once you click on these lighter yellow cells. This is just to provide some examples that we accept as supporting details. So for example, for question B.1, some of the possible examples include regulatory or legal provisions specifying sustainability requirements, technical specifications, including sustainability requirements, references to eco-labels, etc. Please also note all these examples are only the possible examples. If your country or governments have other type of examples, please feel free to provide. This is just like a starting point for you to see what type of examples that we can accept. Using section B as an example again. So for example, here, if you select yes, for B.2, you will select no, then you can see at the end of section B here, again, you will have 2 points received because you selected yes here, but no here. So you don't receive points here, but the 2 points you do receive for B.1. For section B and section C are all quite similar. And then for section D and E, D and F are a little bit different. So I will go over D and F in more detail. So in section D, you would have a drop-down menu, but these drop-down menus have the options that you could only select once. You can also see here that please select up to 18 relevant categories from the drop-down list below, for which green procurement criteria has been defined or environmental standards labels have been recommended. Each category can only be selected once. So here in the description, we also tell you that each category can only be selected once. So what you would see in the drop-down menu here, for example, after you select appliances in the first cell, then in the second cell, you wouldn't see appliance here anymore for your selection. This way, you know that each category can only be selected once. The same applies for DB. Each of the category can only be selected once. So after you select an answer, this answer will not appear again when you want to select it in the cells below. Section E is also very similar to before. It's just a normal drop-down menu for you to select. In section F, it's a place for you to provide the percentage of sustainable public procurement in your government out of the total public procurement value. So here in column B, you have the option to enter what is the public procurement category. This is a light yellow cell, so you would type in your category here. It says in the pop-up, please indicate the specific public procurement spend category. In column C, it says, please select year of reference 2020 or 2021. Because we did this exercise in 2020 as well, so we would only accept answers after 2020, meaning only 2020 or 2021 answers. That's why here you would see only answers from these 2 years are accepted in section F. In section D, it says, please enter the requested value in the cells below. Please indicate the total value of national federal contracts that include sustainability requirements for the spend category listed in column B. So what we are requesting in column D is a value. So it should be a net number. Please do not include your currency here in this text because that will interfere with the calculation, the equation we put into Excel. So only insert the money value of the contracts that include sustainability requirements. For example, if it's 1 million, then put 1 million as a number there. In section E and F, it says, please provide more details to support your answers. So in E and F, this section, it is for you to provide more details of what is considered a sustainable contracts here. This section, please insert text, and if you want to insert what type of money you're referring to, what type of currency, you can also include it in this text section, but please don't insert your currency in column D. In column G and H, these are the gray cells, so you would know these are the optional cells. This does not go into the overall score that you will receive for this exercise, but if you know the information, we would really appreciate if you can provide them as well. If you go down to question F, actually, let me provide an example here. I will just insert really quickly a hypothetical value of a category. So for example, one of the category you have here is office paper supplies. And the total requested value is 10,000. It's very little, but it's just using a small number for reference. If you insert your the number here, then you would see at the bottom of section F, you would see the total value of federal national sustainable public procurement is 10,000, whatever your currency is in. And you would also need to complete line 115 in the previous data collection process. We see that a lot of focal points have neglected this line 115 because it's kind of it's only one cell here, so it's easily ignorable, but this is very important. This cell says total value of federal national public procurement. So it is not only the sustainable public procurement, it is the total value of public procurement of your country. So that should be bigger than only the sustainable part, right? So for example, here it is 50,000. So after you insert your number there, then you will see your score F will be calculated. Score F is practically a proportion of how much sustainable public procurement is in your nation's total public procurement, if that makes sense. So that's why line 115 is very important for you to complete as well. Please do not ignore this section. So at the end, you will see a a total score of your Excel questionnaire being calculated. The formula is also here for your reference. The formula again is section A times B plus C plus D plus E and plus F. Because right now we haven't selected a point for A, that's why it's returning 0. However, if we go back and select something for A, we will select yes for A, then you would see the total score being calculated is 4. However, this score is not justified, as Farid previously mentioned, until it's reviewed by UNEP. This score is only here temporarily based on all the evidence you have provided in the Excel questionnaire. UNEP would then go into your questionnaire. We will go over all your responses and we'll contact you if we have any questions, and then we'll produce a score. That's your final justified score. So this is a quick overview of the 2022 Excel questionnaire for the data reporting process.
Thank you very much, Jojo, for very clear explanations. Before moving into Q&A, I'd like to share with you the results of the previous exercise rapidly, since we have a bit of time. So, in terms of participating governments, I told you that we had 40 participating governments, but however, there seems to be a low number, but in terms of percentage of global GDP, this was really a large proportion of GDP because it was 72% of the global GDP. We also had submissions from subnational government last time. This time we won't consider them because it's really too complicated. Then here you can see the governments that participated, mostly from Europe, but however we had 8 countries from Latin America and the Caribbean, 3 from Africa and Western Asia, and we had 6 countries from Asia and the Pacific, 2 from Northern America. We hope to increase this time since we have now 103 focal points that were officially designated. In terms of level of compliance, I said that we had 7 non-compliant, 33 compliant, and distribution was 10 in the low-level category, 14 medium-low level, and 9 in the medium-high level category. Here you can see the countries per region, and you see that again Europe has the highest score, with maybe 2 to 8 countries also scoring in the medium-high level in Europe. 1 country from Northern America, the USA, also in medium-high level, and you had 4 countries of Asia also in the medium-low level. You note that there is no low participation from developing countries. Again, we had only Côte d'Ivoire, which was compliant. So we hope that this time, we'll have an increase in the number of African countries complying with the indicator. Here you can see by levels of implementation. In the low-level section, we had Côte d'Ivoire, but we had also European, Asian countries. Most of the medium-high level came from Europe, with United States of America, as I said earlier. So I think it was interesting to provide you some glimpse of what the results of the previous exercise, so that you see where we start from. And now I'm happy to open the Q&A session. Also to tell you that I shared with you the link to the calculator, which is on our SP 12.71 page. So I also shared the link to the page where you have all the links to the guidelines, the explanations about the 12.71 process, the indicator, etc. Let me stop sharing. Jojo, any questions in the chat maybe?
Farid, I don't know if
Sean
you
can
want to go
speak.
over the next steps first, or would you like to go through the Q&A first?
Okay, then I think you're right. Let's go over the next steps first, and then come to the Q&A. Okay. So let me share again then. In terms of next steps, first of all, we have additional training sessions, so you will have an opportunity to take part in a second session, or tell your colleagues, alternates, etc., that they have this opportunity. We'll have another session on September 30th. It's with at 4 p.m. CET time. We have one on September 15th, more in the morning in Europe to allow Asian participation. The other one, the first one on 30th, is in the afternoon in Paris to allow participation from Latin America and North America. As we mentioned earlier, the deadline is October 17th. And of course, we said that the presentations and recording will be shared after the meeting. So,
Okay, great. Thank you, Farid.
thank you.
Yeah, there is one question in the chat which we can answer first, and then there are people also raising hands, so we can have guests speak up afterwards. So from Azerbaijan again, asking, if we select no for section A, does it mean there's no need to fill out the rest since it won't calculate? Unfortunately, as far as I know, there's no specific regulatory document mentioning SPP, but here and there are some clauses that can be applied for SPP.
Yes, Elshan, that's a very good question. We're aware of that. Fortunately, the indicator was designed is about the number of countries that are implementing SPP action plans and policies. We extended the definition to regulations. However, countries need to show that they have a minimum of either legal framework or policies supporting SPP. So there is indeed a threshold there, and so you can share with us the pieces that you mentioned that apply to SPP, and we will assess, whether this is sufficient enough to comply with A. However, please be aware that this is a process. We are countries are embarking, on this topic, which is new. So it's always good to have a baseline to start from something. So I would encourage you even to fill out the other parts to see where you stand, in terms of actually activities and performance on the B to F sections, even if you're not compliant with A, because this will help you design better your policies and address the gaps, basically. But and also don't be too disappointed if you're non-compliant with A, because we know it's as I said, it's a long process. It's in a beginning, of an adventure, I would say, for SPP, and it's the if it's not to this time, it will be next time.
He also has he or she also has an add-up to the question, asking whether this regulatory document should be dated at least back to 2021.
No, as I said earlier, as long as it applies, it's still applicable. It's still in force. It's okay to provide documents that date back from 3, 4, 5 years. For example, GPP policies and action plans, sometimes they have a validity of up to 5 years. See, so we will consider plans that were developed and approved in, for example, in up to 2017. Okay. So a law, for example, public procurement law, sometimes it has it's in force since 8, 10 years ago. So still in force. So depends on the type of document.
Okay, great. Hopefully that answered the question. We have a guest raising hand. Chayud, hopefully I pronounced your name correctly.
Thank you, Farid and Yisu. Just a quick question. Thank you for sharing very interesting data. Farid, since we conduct this exercise, this kind of survey in 2020, what are the main challenges issue there back then, and what have you done to for 2022? What have been changed so that we understand the process? This is something very interesting, but what are the challenge issue back then, and what we are doing now better? Secondly, the country who had high score in 2020, do they still maintain, or what do you see that will happen in 2022? Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah.
Yes, that's excellent questions. In terms of improvements, we mentioned the changes that occurred, mostly the number of focal points. So we have much larger participation of countries. We're moving from we contacted 55 countries. Now we're at 103 countries this time. So that's the first element of progress. Second, we are only concentrating on national governments. We're no longer receiving questionnaires from subnational governments because of the complexity to manage this. And three, we have made slight changes. As I said, we removed the assessment of risk in the determination of priority products. We added a question on the awards and incentives. So, but these are really slight changes,
Okay.
and we changed the scale to 0 to 100. The score can be up to 100. So, and then we of course improved a lot the questionnaire, the I would say the design and the layout, and make it much more user friendly. Yeah, Jojo, you want to add something on that?
Yeah, so first of all, now the questionnaire is based on cloud. So basically all your answers
Okay.
will be stored. Yeah, and you can send a link to other colleagues in your government or agency so you can all collaborate. And now because all the scores return automatically, it is for you to use as self-assessment at any time also. So you can see how you progress and so on.
Yeah, thanks, Jojo, for mentioning that. I think a critical change was now to have the questionnaire online.
Okay.
So,
thank you.
And this
Okay.
gives, as I said earlier, the possibility to have multiple
Yeah.
participation of teamwork on the filling out of the questionnaire and
Yeah.
in real time.
Thank you Farid. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yisu. Thank you. Yeah.
And I hope Thailand will take part this time.
Yes, that's why attending this one very we move forward. Okay, thank you, Farid, for your support.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There's a question about an official and legal definition of SPP. Yes, there is. You can find it in the UNEP Global Reviews, UNEP SPP Global Reviews. And so Jojo, please share the link of the 2017 Global Review.
Yeah, I can definitely share it.
Okay.
Do you want to answer some of the other questions in the chat box?
What is the relationship between agencies like ISD, UNEP, because we get similar requests to participate for similar issues, all targeted to sustainable green life cycle? Who is asking this question? Sorry, there's no name, only a number, 16616. Okay, anyway, the question, well, there are two different process you're talking about. Here we are talking about an official reporting process as part of the Sustainable Development Goal reporting, as part of the 2030 development agenda. So UNEP is in charge of this official reporting process. Now other organizations, they run surveys and they have questionnaires regarding the the progress of SPP, but this cannot be considered official, okay, and included in the 2030 development agenda reporting process. So I hope it's clear to you, but if it's not clear enough, please take the floor. Thank you, Jojo, for sharing the link. Here you can find the official SPP definition that was developed by the UK task force and then endorsed by UNEP in 2005. I would like to tell you also that there will be a help desk that we will be assisting you, guiding you throughout the process. So don't feel that you will be abandoned and you will have you will be faced, to in case you're faced with some difficulties. Please know that we will be here to assist you. Also, there will be another series of webinars in September, as I mentioned. So we'll have a second chance also to participate and ask questions in case you have some issues with the reporting.
We also have some other questions in the chat box. One of the guests is asking, what is the experience from other countries on aggregated government spend data collection for filling this questionnaire? This given in our developing countries where technology is still wanting.
Well, who's asking the question? Sorry.
Alku Yakub Patrick.
Okay.
Maybe you would
Yeah.
like to. Oh, yeah.
No, it's okay. I think I can reply. Well, the experience is, as you know, probably Patrick, the procurement data is very scattered in the public sector. So we don't have the possibility to consolidate, to aggregate all the data, the procurement data, unless the countries have a very good e-procurement system that extends to all the contracting authorities. And this is, I don't know any country except maybe a few. We have like Korea has an amazing e-procurement system, but I'm not sure that it includes also the data from subnational governments. So this is the issue we're facing. And then there is an issue of multiple reporting. As you see, we're providing you support in the reporting process, and this support cannot be extended to thousands of local subnational governments. So it's a steady, progressive approach that we have adopted, and we're first concentrating on central governments, providing our support, strengthening the index, and then hopefully when the conditions will be ripe, when the data will be available and consolidated, then we will be able to associate and involve subnational governments. We have the question from Namibia. Ministry of Finance in Namibia is the main implementer of the procurement policy. Should we send them the questionnaire? Yes, Anastasia, of course. We know that many of you are not in charge of the procurement policy or the SPP policy. So please reach out to the right interlocutors and the right correspondents, and have them fill out maybe or contribute to filling out the questionnaire. And maybe you can also designate them as alternates in your country so that you share the burden and the responsibility of reporting with them, and you do it officially. Very important, this question. Thanks for asking this. We know that many of you come from the statistics departments, from the planning departments, and you don't have access to the requested data and information. So please make sure that you first reach out to the right people that have the responsibility and have the data and the ability to fill out the questionnaire. Thank you. Jojo, any other question?
Yeah. There's one more saying, where can we find template SPP policy to guide us to prepare locally?
Elshan, a few years back, we were in touch with Azerbaijan when for the EU for environment policy or program, sorry. At that time, it was EAP Green, actually, Eastern Partnership Green Program. But in the end, it didn't work with Azerbaijan, so we were not able to support you on developing an SPP policy. But we're doing that for Georgia. We're doing that. We're supporting Georgia. We're supporting Ukraine. We're supporting Moldova. So please get in touch with us. You have my email, and we have a regional European office, and we have our office also in Central Asia that are ready to provide you support on either developing or guiding you or informing you on other examples of policies. So this is a measurement of where you stand, but we and other support organizations that we know are ready to provide you support to help you accelerate the shift to sustainable procurement. Thank you. So please, you have my email. Just write to me, and we'll get back to you. Okay, examples how SPP is implemented in EU. We're going to issue the 2022 global review, and you will receive it. So this will happen in about 1 month's time, maximum of 6 weeks. So you will be able to see and to assess, to really get knowledgeable and find out about the progress of SPP at world level. So coming up soon. And but Mr. 16 or Miss 16616, please put your name there. It will be better to talk to someone who we know who is or she is than an anonymous person.
This participant's from Bhutan, though. There is says
okay, yeah, it says
Bhutan
from
in the
Bhutan.
bracket.
Okay, sorry for that. At least we know your country. Yes, please send your email. We have your email though, Jojo, because in the registration form we had the emails from everyone. So we should have the emails from this participant from Bhutan.
Yeah,
And
we have it in
we'll
the
make sure that
point.
you receive the information about the publication of the 2022 global review. But already you can consult the 2017. You just type, okay, great, you're the focal officer of Bhutan. So we'll be in touch anyway. And maybe what we can do, Jojo, is send to everyone after this session the links to to our tools, to our publications. So the global review, and then the web page, and of course the SPP 12.7, sorry, the SDG 12.71 page, web page.
Yeah, definitely.
So we'll be sending together with the presentations, together with the link to the recording of this webinar. We'll be sending you the link to or the links to various tools that you're requesting in this chat box. Thanks, Elshan, for your message. Looking forward to discussion with you. Okay, conversion of data. What do we do regarding currency, Jojo?
You do not have to convert it to a universal or to the international currency, but please note what currency type that you are typing in the other section. Please provide more details to support your answer. So in that cell, because you can text in text in that cell, so please identify your currency there, but you do not have to necessarily convert.
Okay, so you can use your national currency, but please indicate that you are doing it and give the name of your currency in the text cell. Okay, Bhutan has e-procurement system. That's good. Would be good to know if it extends, it includes subnational governments, if it's really comprehensive. If it's the case, that would be great. Okay, Bangladesh has drafted an SPP policy, so you're ready to participate, I guess. However, it needs to be not only drafted but approved. So it needs to be in the an official or approved, at least formal SPP policy, where with a finalized publication with a link. So it needs to be uploaded right, on government website. So please consider this point, that draft is not enough, but it has to be an approved policy, which is because we're talking about implementation of a policy. Question about recruitment of junior professional officers in developing countries. Siaka, can you clarify your question? Take the floor. Hello, Siaka.
Hello, Farid. Yeah, so
Hi.
there was this this recruitment going on. I just wanted to know whether there was a link between your team and the One Planet at UN.
Okay, no, definitely. We know we're of course a co-lead of the One Planet Network, UNEP, and this process is of course UNEP is the custodian of 12.7, but we also lead the monitoring working group of the One Planet Network. So we're closely sharing the progress, the methodology, and consulting also our the members of this group on the monitoring of SPP, which is part of the One Planet Network. So your question is on the recruitment of the JPO. We're completely aware. Actually, we disseminated this information, and we are waiting for the to review the applications, and but we are associated in the process. Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. And this JPO is hired to lead or to be the coordinator of the SPP program of the One Planet Network. For those of you who don't know the One Planet Network, it was established after the Rio +20 summit, and it aims at accelerating the shift to sustainable consumption and production. It has 6 programs. Among them, one is focusing on sustainable public procurement.
Thank you so much, Farid.
Thanks a lot for your participation. Okay. So Jojo, if we don't have any more questions, I think we'll wrap up.
I don't think there are any more questions in the
plaintiff का meaning है जो plain
Just going
submit
to
करता है.
mute
yeah
to mute some people.
yeah I don't think there are any more questions in the chat box.
Well, thanks for your great participation. We had at some point around 50 attendees, so this shows the level of interest for this topic, and we're pleased to see many